All right, guys, coming to you from the mighty Midwest. How you doing out there? Today is Friday, and I'm going to post this video for Saturday, and it's Friday, August 2nd, I believe. So, hope everybody's enjoying the beautiful weather, the warmth of the summer. Hopefully, we have a nice, prolonged summer here. Without further ado, let's get into interest rates and how I called the interest rate hold for the July FOMC meeting. And how I called that is, well, I just listened to the Federal Reserve and what their plans are and what their plans are to do. The first thing when they started raising rates back in 2022 was they stated that their unemployment goal was to get unemployment to 5%. Currently, we're around 4.5% as of the meeting. I believe it was right around 4.1. So some new unemployment data came out the day after that all the Federal Reserve members had voted to keep interest rates held. So that was one tell that they're not going to cool down at this meeting. The second clue that came about was that inflation nationwide is still hovering around over 2.3%, and their goal is to get inflation down to 2%. So this is kind of a side note, but one thing I'd like to mention about why Americans are feeling so strapped versus maybe an immigrant coming into the country is because back in 1992, minimum wage was about $5.35 an hour, approximately, give or take a few cents. And the going wage was probably in the sevens an hour. So let's use $7.65 an hour, which is kind of what I remember my second job being paid. I was paid minimum wage when I worked at McDonald's, and I went across the street to the car wash and got into the sevens, and I thought, hey, I was making big money. So if your inflation target is 2% over the years, that would give us a doubling of the minimum or starting wage time frame of every 6 years. So let's say 1992, and that's 98, 4, 2010, 16, 20, 24, that's 6 doubling periods. So that would mean minimum wage to keep up with inflation would be, when we multiply the minimum wage times 6, or we double it every 6 years, so that's 10, 20, 40, 80, 160, 320. So compared to the dollars, the minimum wage should be $320 an hour. And then you take in the going wage, well, it's even higher yet. So seeing the going wage is at the lowest, probably in the 14 an hour and even up to 20 an hour. However, when we had rampant inflation, as we did with all the currency printed out of thin air for COVID programs, that would actually take us close to $1,000 an hour if you figure that out. So that's why Americans are so stressed and so pissed off right now. So whoever goes into office is not going to change this, because they both want to print currency out of thin air. So the one way that Harris will do that will be basically through the wars that they want to propagate up, and the one way that Trump will do that would be through pressuring the Federal Reserve to lower rates. However, the Federal Reserve is independent from the government, and that's the third tell that they were not going to lower rates, because we're coming into an election cycle, and they didn't want to lower too soon to be seen as being biased towards one party. So they are independent. They are a private bank. Their banks don't have to pay any taxes. They don't have to pay state, local, or federal taxes. They're totally independent. And I disagree with having them run our lives, but it is what it is. So until the people stand up against them, we're going to get the same old thing going on. So I would estimate that they will probably come out in September and lower rates 25 percentage basis points, or half a percentage point. They got one more clue that they weren't going to lower rates this time around. So, and that is housing costs. So back in June, they announced, we are going to attack housing. We're going to get these costs down. Well, they're going to do that by prolonging rates. So one problem you may have as a first-time home buyer, you may say, well, or any home buyer really, you may say, well, I want the rates lowered so I can afford more. Well, is that going to have a reverse effect? Is that going to drive prices up? See where they're coming from? And the last thing is, this isn't a tell that, or a clue that the Federal Reserve talked about. It's just me traveling, I tend to go down to Indianapolis a couple times a month, um, and travel different places. And I'm sorry to say that the world does not revolve around Elkhart County. I wish it did. And when things get bad in the recreational vehicle history or industry, they do get bad. They get really bad. And unfortunately, if the nationwide unemployment rate is going to be 5, typically our nationwide or our unemployment in our area, our county, is going to be over 8%, maybe 7 with this economy this go around, maybe as high as 12. So I've been surprised that the trailer factories have been holding on so long with not laying off. I do have inside information, and if you're in that industry, you'll probably know that come August, you're working 4 days a week, and you have the last week of the month off. So, or at least 1 week of the month off. I'm not sure if it's the last or not. So come September, you got the Labor Day weekend. That's going to really cut your hours. You got an extra week off. And then come Thanksgiving, I've heard they're going to be shut down, some of them for 2 weeks, and then December for 3 weeks. So I would be looking for a part-time side hustle, part-time job. If you have interest in different ways you can make money or save money in assets that'll outpace inflation, get with me. Put my contact info somewhere in the link or a comment. You can reach out to me and let's have a conversation and see if we can help you out with some of those things, from building your credit, saving money, making money through side hustles, different things like that. We've got lots of ideas and I can help coach you along in that. And there's one more thought. Oh, and that is, going back to the world doesn't revolve around Elkhart County. Take Apple stock, for example. They hit every metric of their earnings, and they blasted through that. So Apple's a blue chip company, Dow 30 company, and obviously the Federal Reserve follows that. They blasted through every level, from gross margin, profit margin, sales of iPads. The only thing they missed on by a little bit was Mac, the Mac laptops, and it was maybe like 100,000 or $1 million. And we're talking all these other numbers are in the billions, and they only missed that metric by a little bit. So worldwide, you still got a lot of money moving around, and you're just gonna have to buckle down and look at ways to save money and make a little more money. Over and out from the mighty Midwest.